Hello, you are hearing the voice of Patricia Angelin, and you are at All the Feels. How are you feeling on this day? It is February 2nd. Some people would say Groundhog's Day. Others would say it's St. Bridget's Day. Others would say it's Candlemas Day. Let's see, groundhogs. I think I've about covered it. And the continuing celebrations, of course, of the East Asian Lunar New Year. And this is the year of the tiger, 2022. And it is the year of the water tiger. So in the cosmology of the Far East, there are 12 zodiacal animals, and there are, of course, the 5 traditional Qigong elements, and water being one of them. And so this year is not just the year of the tiger, it's the elemental water tiger year, so you can look both those things up. Today, I want to share with you a poet who is unfamiliar to me, but was brought to my attention by a cousin of mine who is herself a published poet. And so if you want to know more about that, you can always ask me. And that poet is Mary Oliver. Now, Mary Oliver died in 2019 at about 83, 84 years of age, so she had a good and a long career. She's associated with the northeastern United States, I think Rhode Island, in that area there, as I understand it. And I looked up what is her, because she's evidently very prolific, which is good to know. So if you like her work, you can look it up and you can read a lot more of her work. And it continues with the goal of this to every day read a fine poem, see a fine picture, hear a little melody, and, if possible, make a few sensible remarks. Well, I don't know if I made any sensible remarks yet today, but I certainly am looking forward to approaching so that you can hear 3 poems by Mary Oliver. And they are what Google says is her most read and most popular poem, entitled Wild Geese. One that I particularly liked for this world of pandemic craziness and anxiety and those feelings that we all have, whether or not we are aware of it, entitled The Moths, as in flying moths and flames and that sort of thing. And then, finally, a beautiful, beautiful poem that reminded me of one that I've done on this series of All the Feels about the Japanese art of dealing with pottery that breaks and infusing into the glue with which they repair the pottery gold or silver or platinum, thus making the broken piece even more valuable, even more itself. And I think that that's what happens to us through life if we allow it, with all of our broken places. So, with your permission, let us approach together Mary Oliver, and I will go in a little closer here so that you can see a beautiful view of the other side of my red room, conference room here at Alba Technique. So please open your ears and allow your eyes to look upon the little twinkle lights of the live growing tree, which my sister sent me for Christmas, and it's in its pot. It's actually a growing thing. I wish I knew somebody in whose garden I could plant it, but so far it's doing very well in my little apartment in New York. So here we are with Mary Oliver. And listen, and then afterwards perhaps look up the poem yourself and read it out loud to yourself once. Or first read it in your mind once, and then second, read it out loud to yourself so that it goes through your mouth, into your ears, in your own voice. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean, high blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. The Moths by Mary Oliver. There's a kind of white moth, I don't know what kind, that glimmers in mid-May in the forest just as the pink moccasin flowers are rising. If you notice anything, it leads you to notice more and more. And anyway, I was so full of energy. I was always running around looking at this and that. If I stopped, the pain became unbearable. If I stopped and thought, maybe the world can't be saved, the pain was unbearable. Finally, I noticed enough. All around me in the forest, the white moths floated. How long do they live, fluttering in and out of the shadows? You aren't much, I said one day to my reflection in a green pond, and grinned. The wings of the moths catch the sunlight and burn so brightly. At night, sometimes, they slip between the pink lobes of the moccasin flowers and lie there until dawn, motionless, in those dark halls of honey. Breakage by Mary Oliver. I go down to the edge of the sea. How everything shines in the morning light. The cusp of the whelk, the broken cupboard of the clam, the opened blue mussels, moon-say nails, pale pink and barnacle scarred, and nothing at all whole or shut, but tattered, split, dropped by the gulls onto the gray rocks, and all the moisture gone. It's like a schoolhouse of little words, thousands of words. First, you figure out what each one means by itself. The jingle, the periwinkle, the scallop, full of moonlight. Then you begin, slowly, to read the whole story. 3 by Mary Oliver. Wow. How did that make you feel? I'm trying to let you see me as I talk to you, and it's not letting me. Okay, there we go. How did that make you feel? It made me feel like I want to go outside, like I want to go and see the little things, you know, the microcosm, and see what is it? I think it's Wordsworth, to see a world in a grain of sand, and eternity in a wildflower. I'll look it up for next week. Infinity, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. It's something like that. But that's what I think she does as a poet, is she looks at all of the things exactly as they are, and she really sees them, and she allows them to affect her, and she allows them to make her more human and more whole of herself. And Keats, is it Keats? Thank you, Rosette Epstein. That's something that I should know. I thought it might be William Blake, but it's Keats, huh? Okay, well, we'll look that up so we can quote it properly in future. And hello, David Hunt. Thank you so much for joining me in these 3 poems by Mary Oliver for all the feels. No matter how difficult I feel, and no matter what the emotions or the complications of them are, I do find that following Goethe's advice is helpful. To listen to a specific fine melody, especially if it's not already on my playlist. Something new to come into my consciousness, to give me support of a different kind than I'm accustomed to. So a little melody, a fine poem, and you've just encountered 3 fine poems with me that you can look up, make in your own mind, make in your own, through your tongue and your lips and your larynx, and vibrating in your own body, hearing in your own ears your own voice, saying the same poems. And that is what I advise you to do. Not to allow it just to be my voice that you've heard, although that does another kind of a thing for the emotional and neurological self. But let it become your own. And then, of course, to see a fine picture. And you're seeing quite a fine picture right behind me. It's an oil, and it is of somewhere in the Caribbean, given to me by the late actress Julie Hayden, and it was given to her by her husband, the late drama critic George Jean Nathan, because they spent their honeymoon on the Caribbean going to see Ernest Hemingway and his then wife Mary in Cuba at that time, in the mid-1950s. So there's a fine picture for you. And if you listen to a little melody, you will have done it all. Do it all. Bless you, and thank you so much for joining me. This will be available on the YouTube channel, Alba Technique, and Katie will help me upload it after it goes live on Instagram here. Thank you so much. I'm trying to figure out how to unlive us.